So, for those of you who aren't aware, the Highfleet 1.16 beta came out. This is about half a year, if not more, since 1.151 came out, maybe a bit less. So this is a rather big update, since this is the first update in half the game's lifespan. To quickly explain how to install it, is actually quite simple. First, I recommend you go into your local files. You know how to do that on Steam, and you back up your ships and saves folder to back up the profiles in the folder. Please do that so that you don't, in case, I had to actually reinstall the game to make it run after I installed the beta. So you just want to be able to back up things. Good habit all the time. If you want to install the beta, you go into your Highfleet on Steam, you go into properties, and then you go into betas, and then you click on this tab, and you, instead of selecting none, you select beta, public, beta version. Upon closing this, remember there's a confirm, you will then automatically patch the 180 or so megabytes to get the 1.16 beta. This may not reflect all actual 1.16 features, so this video will mostly be just showing what is probably going to change rather than exactly what will change, if that makes sense. Like, for example, if a thrust value doubled, right, maybe it's not going to double in 1.16 actual, maybe it'll only increase by 1%, but we still know that there's probably going to be a change to that. So don't take anything here as gospel, however, this does give you a good idea what 1.16 will be about. So to start off, back in 1.0 we had glitch effects, which were shown in the trailers and such, and they were removed at the end of 1.0 for whatever reason. They have actually been reintroduced in the 1.16 beta and expected to come back for 1.16 actual, as you can see on the screen now, and I will probably be throwing our things. There will not be much more explanation on this, as you'll be able to see things throughout this video. However, there is the option to enable glitch low, which mostly removes the effects. However, so far there's not an option in game to completely disable them if you apparently do not like this. In addition to the changes in reintroducing glitch, there was also a visual change in the form of new explosion and smoke trail effects. Apparently, I believe the smoke trails off engines have been changed. And also, large explosions now create more significant flamey debris, and they also, the smoke from said debris will now squiggle through the air as if it was being blown in the wind after its emission. And in addition to the visual changes, artistically speaking, to round things off, there has been an update to the 180mm largest gun sound effects, as well as the 37mm CWiz CIWS sound effect. The CWiz, in my opinion, sounds better with the 180 sounds less than worse, but 180 still sounds quite impressive. The enemy has been destroyed. And it's all better. A generator has been destroyed. The Shipworks has received some new additions. First up, as obvious, there is now a visualization behind the ship of a dock. It will show A, B, or C. A is a 60-meter wide dock. B is a 70-meter wide dock. C is a 100-meter wide dock, roughly, as well as the red check cross in the center of a ship's center of mass has been properly updated. It will now work more effectively. I used to find it buggy. And also, similar to the tonnage percentage breakdown, the Shipworks has now received a breakdown of the ship's price in terms of what components make up what percentage of it, being split between weapons, fuel tank parts, armor, systems, hull, and miscellaneous. Small one, but the jammer has finally received a name, but not a description. It is the MP TAC 100 Lagoon now. Reinforced hull finally got some love in the form of the availability of a silo texture when mounting a missile into it, as well as proper textures when mounting generators and large quarters with, I believe, ammo was actually not new, but I'm just going to add it in. The silos themselves have also gotten some love in that both the new and the old silo textures now function properly again while rotated. And also, the mixing of hull types to make a silo will obviously result in a mixed texture. When testing ships in the Shipworks, the carrier option now actually adds more than one carrier, scaling based off the difficulty rating like other options. It also supports the spawning of the Wasp alongside the Longbow. The APS module's behavior has been changed. Back in the early days, it was that player APS did not reload, and that enemy APS would reload once every 20 seconds or so, or maybe it's fully every 20 seconds, I don't remember. And now more currently, in the last updates, it was that player APS was given the ability to reload. This resulted in some pretty hilariously efficient builds, especially considering you could put APS on Armour. Now, as of 1.16 beta, no APS reloads. That is to say, APS has 2 charges per battle. Once the APS fires 1 or 2 charges, it does not get any more charges back at all. The gunfire arc rules have received some minor updates, most notably, and while seemingly minor but actually quite significant, is that the way arcs interact with guns on the same height has now changed. Previously, guns that existed on the same height layer would not occlude each other. They could fire past each other freely. It was only if a gun had something from a higher layer blocking it that its arc became blocked. However, now guns of the same layer will actually block each other. This means that you can't just make a brick of guns anymore, or the centralized gun placement, so on and so forth. There are also, I believe, some minor changes to how guns elevate. Guns still can see past guns on lower levels, like so. However, this will actually create even more blockage, as the hull will now be elevated to the point where it blocks the lower guns. This will change a lot of designs going forward because of just how this guns work. As some of you may have been aware, the act of using internal and external triangles for armor because of their reduced weight while retaining durability was a very big standpoint in the meta in 1.151. As of 1.16 beta, they both have been increased to 32.1 tons, as opposed to the 18 and I think 20-something tons they originally had. They're still lighter than the square and have the same durability. However, this does represent a reduction in their effectiveness as it stood. When pausing the game in the Shipworks, the retry option is no longer available, only cancel and returning to the editor. This means that in order to retry, you need to either go back to the editor and open up again, possibly ending up with a different line of ships than you wanted if you were possibly fishing for them, or to retreat or destroy your own ship. Evacuating would probably be your best quick option. Ships seemingly have received across-the-board losses in map mode speed while retaining the same thrust-to-weight ratios. And it currently seems that 1.0 thrust-to-weight ratio reduces speed to roughly 10 kilometers an hour, much less than the 90 it used to, which is now like 1.5, I don't remember. There's also, I think, some fuel efficiency changes. What is notable about this basically is that all the ships now need a lot more thrust to function because they basically need to fulfill this 1.5 times tax. Now you might ask, why is that? Well, in the game, you are, even before this patch, you are actually allowed to fly a ship less than 9 kilometers an hour. Throttle lever does that, and if a ship's damaged, you're also forced to go slower, kind of like you would be now, though before you would have a 0.8 thrust-to-weight ratio, whatever. Now, however, the modifier for being less than 9 kilometers an hour has not been removed. If you do not meet 90 kilometers an hour, you will not achieve full range. For example here, I have a ship flying full speed. I know it's a speedrun build, ignore it. There's nothing to do with the speedrun, actually. I just hate what this did to some of the designs. Something like this fastball and shit. The blue circle is normally what range you should reach, and at full speed you should be close to max efficiency. However, you'll notice that while flying towards the edge of the circle, it's coming back in. This means that, you know, normally the edge of the circle would stay here, the rest of it would get smaller, sure, but that would stay the same because you're going to reach that point. What's happening here is the ship is not actually achieving its standard range. The ship is inefficient. It's burning more fuel than it should. While it has 500 kilometer range, this no fuel is correct. It can't actually fly more than this distance. So it's not just that ships are slower for being under that tax, it's actually that they just burn an obscene amount of fuel. And yeah, you'll have to probably do a lot of rebalancing your ship designs. You need roughly twice as much thrust, something like that, as you used to, it almost seems, to exceed some of these things. A lot of vanilla ships have been changed to reflect these issues. So, as mentioned, there was changes to how thrust affects ships, and because of this, Shunton has had to rework a lot of the heavier base game ships that were riding the 1.0 thrust weight margin originally, so that now they can run the 1.314 thrust weight margin. This has also resulted in some changes in their gun layouts and other things. They've generally been quite... generally, the cruisers have been quite changed overall. And I think I will just address an entire video towards them in general. I personally, though, will say I'm not a big fan of these changes at all. They don't really feel the same anymore. Saving the best for last, there is actually a teaser of what is to come. I don't think it will actually come during the time of 1.16, but rather maybe 1.17, 1.18, and beyond. However, over in the options, we've essentially been teased multiplayer. If you go into controls, there's now this blank square. When you click on it, you get player controls. It seems to be for local multiplayer, but once you have the code in for local multiplayer, you're kind of getting there. I think somebody on the Discord said that they got something working related to this, but it was like incredibly unusable and bare bones or something. So that leads me to believe there is going to be something in the future in this regard. Possibly this is an official build and everything, so this could be something. Also, there's a new folder called Skirmish that has been added that is believed to be associated to this.